Mio Perrin from Foot Locker. So we've got a lot to talk about in a relatively short space of time here. So everyone in the audience, I'm sure, is familiar with Foot Locker and all the different brands that sit underneath Foot Locker. But just in case we've got anybody from overseas who's never heard of you, give us a quick snapshot of Foot Locker and your involvement there.
Oh my goodness, where do we begin? So I've been there for a little over 2 years now, and Foot Locker is really the global retailer of athletically inspired shoes and apparel. But at the end of the day, what does that really mean? We have something that fits everybody's lifestyle. So when you look at our brands, there's really something there for everybody. From Kids Foot Locker to Lady Foot Locker to Foot Action to CCS for the skateboarders to East Bay, and of course Foot Locker itself, which is pretty much everywhere in every city and every major location. The great thing is when you walk into a Foot Locker store today, you'll see a lot of shoes, great looking shoes, but you also see a lot of apparel and a lot of things to complement the entire outfit, the entire hookup. And that's going to continue to grow and change, and you know, the product is really fresh, it's great looking, the experience is a lot of fun.
So you were hired 2 years ago. You came on board in 2 years. Your background, you know, has been in sort of process change and thought leadership. So give us a little bit of the kind of remit you were given when Foot Locker brought you into the company. What was the thing they said, hey, Mio, go fix this. This is really important to us.
Like everybody else's job, right? There's what's written on paper, and then there's what happens in reality with strategy and challenges and change. You know, I was recruiting for corporate, but at the same time, corporate ended up owning a lot of the tools that were put into place. Well, ownership is just one part of it. The strategies is what counts. And so after listening to what some of the challenges were in the business, you know, how do we automate? How do we simplify? How do we put consistency in the business? How do we make it easier, most importantly, for the store managers who probably have millions of things to do, millions of different tools, millions of processes. Most importantly, we want them on the floor dealing with the customer, selling, interacting, moving the business. So whatever we can do to simplify, to make things easier, that's where the conversations were heading and going.
Okay.
And of course, assessments are not a new thing to any business, you know, in a shape or form. And PeopleAnswers was already a partner that was in discussions with our organization. And when I came on board, I did the best as I can to look backwards and see, was there anybody that can do a better job? The answer was no. And we decided to partner with PeopleAnswers as quickly as we could, because we realized that we needed to come up with a level of efficiency as fast as we can, because our business is growing and it's moving fast. So we didn't have time to sit there and think about, well, you know, there's always a better way, there's always a different way, but is there a way that works well and works well for your business? And so we came to that conclusion.
So we've been working together now for about 18 months, something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and I know you've been through a really interesting kind of proof point, a couple of proof points with us. So we've both been involved in that with several members of the team here. So let's talk a little bit about how you conceptualized this and how you actually started rolling out in a controlled environment to prove that this was going to work for the business.
Well, you know, first of all, our approach was more to pilot at the beginning. Mm-hmm. We needed to validate for ourselves once we kind of reached the zen of, yes, we're going to move forward. Well, what does this mean for us, and how do we learn from what moving forward means? So that means piloting, and that means piloting in stores that are going to give you enough data to make the right decision. But that also meant, how do we prepare the right technical infrastructure and process to undertake a mass rollout if we were to move forward
exactly
in the right way? So for us, it really meant integrating with our ATS partner, and we, you know, had many strenuous late nights and technical discussions to really make what I like to refer to as a seamless process. You know, things that bother me that many people probably don't notice. Pop-ups, you know, thinking about where we were going to move forward with the future. We spend a lot of time, you know, especially with the team that's here as well, looking at things like that. How do we make sure that the candidate, and this is resonating from a lot of the folks here as well, how do we make sure that when the candidate goes out there on the website and applies online, that to them it's really seamless? because the candidate does not need to know that it's PeopleAnswers and your web hosting provider and your ATS. It doesn't matter. They click apply, they want to apply. And when they're done applying, they want to know that it's not going into a black hole, that somebody's going to give them a call, and that they're going to be able to have a positive experience. It's no different than when you go to a store, you say, I want a pair of John Varvatos in size 9. Somebody brings you out a black pair. No, I wanted brown. You know, it's the same factor. So consistency at the store and the business translates into consistency online. And by the way, the people who are applying, most of them are probably our customer as well.
Right.
So let's remember that, because they need to have a consistent process everywhere that they are. So those are the things that kept us up. So we worked, I think, on a very aggressive schedule.
Very aggressive.
To build a profile, to build several profiles, and then integrate, test, and go live.
So I remember we ended up after the first part of the pilot, we went up and we had a really great meeting in the executive headquarters in New York, and Ken Hicks, your CEO, was in that meeting, and a bunch of the other stakeholders. And it's not often we get exposure to board level, CEO level of a multi-billion-dollar company like Foot Locker, and we sat there. And he had some real interesting observations on the pilot, which caused us to go back and just fine-tune a few things. Briefly describe how that went for us.
Well, I definitely echo the fact that we had a high level of executive participation, and by the way, we still do. The one thing that I'm highly proud of, and this is really a collective effort of everybody that's been involved, but everybody at Foot Locker that needs to know in any way, shape, or form knows about this initiative. From IT to finance to sourcing, to the travel department. I mean, everybody knows, and it's top down and bottoms up. But what happened is our CEO challenged the science in a very thoughtful and provocative way. Challenged the science to say, well, why don't we have one profile for every single division? And in theoretical terms, one could say that should be possible. But then we ended up thinking about it and saying, okay, let's put it to the test. So what we did is we took a profile from one division and put it against another division.
So this was Lady Foot Locker versus Foot Locker, was it?
No, it was Foot Locker
Champs.
versus Champs.
You're right.
And we challenged, and we came to the conclusion at the end of the day that there is a bit of a different experience, and we went back to the profiles that were created.
Excellent.
And I think this discussion is going to be ongoing, because I don't think that there's a magic formula that comes up front. It's also going to go on with experience, and I think I can say we have not reached PeopleAnswers Zen as some of the other customers in the room have. Right? I think that total self-actualization when you're a yogi and you're floating from a PeopleAnswers rug, we're not there yet. But we want to be there, and what I mean by that is there's going to be a constant revival as the business moves forward, as we roll out. Well, how many profiles do we need? How should it look like? We might open up new businesses that are not there today. Well, will the same profiles work for them, or will we need to build different profiles? So this discussion cannot stop because you rolled out a system and a platform. Now we're good, let's go on vacation and everything's fine. It has to be an organic, ongoing discussion, and we'll calibrate when we need to calibrate, and we'll add when we need to add, and we'll remove and consolidate when we need to consolidate.
So we used obviously a lot of the guys in the engineering team to help sift through that data. Were there any specific challenges on how we pulled that information and how we kind of boiled that down to help you look at the study and get some results? Any learnings from that?
The good thing about Foot Locker, which I'm very proud of, is we have a lot of data and we have a lot of information. The bad thing is we have a lot of data and we have a lot of information.
Right.
So one of the learnings for me personally is I failed to ask one question up front, which was really how will we report accurately in this project? Because what happened is when we got into it, when we wanted to look at the data, we had a lot of data. The problem was not give me the numbers. The problem was how do we put it together quickly, effectively, in a way that it makes sense to bring to our C-level folks on a regular basis. And that ended up being a lot of work on our part, but also with some of the validation that you guys helped us with. We looked at a lot of our data on our own internally. We partnered with our finance teams and our ops teams, and we still continue to do that. The good thing about it is, though, we now know what we want our reporting to look like. We know how we want to gauge our results. And so now we have the output. We can work backwards, and we are working backwards, to make sure that all our data is going to funnel into one place so that I can empower all my super admins to click on a button and run a report, rather than have several meetings and validation and things like that just to come to a conclusion on how we're doing. So it's about getting healthier in the process.
So we talked with everyone about the results, and I know that we've studied this. We do have some very good quantifiable results, but because you're a public company, because of all the constraints that go along with that, you were unable to get the blessing to talk about an absolute dollar value. But just imagine you had approval. What would you say? We'll let the store managers speak for that. But I'll say it very simply. There are so many things that are impacted by working with a company like PeopleAnswers. We have redefined everything that we're going to do. So in the future state, we're fully automating our store recruitment process, end to end, with background checking, with an electronic ATS that will be available through both the back office and POS, which means it's available on a mobile device too if we ever choose to go that route. Right.
We're revamping a lot of our employer branding initiatives to cover that angle as well. So our prep now really involves end to end. It's not just about PeopleAnswers, and it's not just about ATS. It's about empowering a holistic, efficient, simple recruitment process for the store manager, saving them time, helping them look at what they need to look at, when they need to look at it, so they can get back to the floor and sell and deal with the customer. That's what it's all about.
Thank you.